Welcome back, casual gardeners. Here in Zone 6, Utah, we are just finishing up our gardening season, and that means that it is time to begin planning for next year. So in that spirit, let's talk about 5 plants that are actually cheaper to grow in our gardens and 5 plants that you're actually better off buying at the grocery store. This video is going to be especially helpful if you're growing in a smaller garden and you have space limitations, because you don't want to waste your space on stuff you might as well just go get at the grocery store. When I look like this, I'm doing a fun fact. So we're going to start with the ones that are cheaper to grow. These are plants that either have a really high price per pound at the grocery store or kick out just a bunch of food per square foot in the garden to the point that it just maths out. You got to grow it at home. Number 1 is tomatoes. This is one of the few vegetables that every grower will agree is worth the square footage in a greenhouse. A successful tomato plant will give you so much food, and it will taste so much better than anything you buy at the grocery store, because in our gardens we can focus on growing varieties of tomatoes that are grown for flavor instead of being tough and easy to ship. In 18th century Europe, people called tomatoes poison apples when their wealthy and their nobility ate tomatoes. They would become nauseous and have symptoms of poisoning. It turns out that there was nothing poisonous about the tomatoes. The wealthy people were eating them on pewter plates. Pewter contains lead, and tomatoes are acidic, probably a lot more acidic than most of the foods that Europeans would have been eating at the time. And because of this, they would actually leach lead out of their pewter plates, which would then be ingested by the European nobility and make them sick. Number 2, lettuce and spinach, and I mean really a lot of other leafy greens as well. A 4-foot by 4-foot garden bed that's about a square meter of space can produce gallons of greens during the cool seasons of the year. And I measure these in gallons because I store them in gallon bags in my refrigerator. Homegrown greens are amazing. Unlike the stuff we get at the grocery store, which can store for, I don't know, 3 to 5 days, and then it gets nasty. I found that I can store my homegrown lettuce for up to 2 weeks, and it still tastes grocery store fresh or better. Fun fact about spinach: it can absorb heavy metals from the soil, which sounds disturbing, but it's actually quite useful. Sometimes spinach leaves can explode in the microwave due to their high mineral content. Because of their ability to absorb metals from the soil, spinach can be used in a process called phytoremediation, which is just fancy science talk for using plants to clean up pollution. Number 3 is going to be fresh herbs. Fresh herbs are just really expensive at the grocery store, especially considering how much you get. If you wanted to grow mint and basil and thyme and rosemary and all that other stuff at home, you can have it available to grow fresh at a much lower cost, and you don't even have to worry about its shelf life or storage because it is fresh as long as it's on the plant. According to legend and other apocryphal sources, it is said that people used to scream curses at their basil when they would plant it, and they would scream insults at their basil when they would harvest it. I didn't even bother trying to learn what they thought they were doing. But if you really want to impress your neighbors, you should maybe consider planting your basil the old school way. Number 4 is summer squash. Mostly that's zucchini, but you can also grow some crookneck squash, that's hard to say, in your garden. Summer squash are harvested immature, and your plants are going to pump out pounds and pounds of summer squash. But since it is good in salads and pasta and casseroles and breads and desserts and all sorts of other things, you should not run out of things to use your summer squash for. If you do, you can always leave it on your neighbor's porches, as is tradition. Sometimes zucchini can cross-pollinate with other gourds. When they do, the fruit can contain elevated levels of cucurbitacins. That's a chemical class that can cause nausea and hallucinations. There were several cases of cucurbitacin toxicity in Europe in 2015. Number 5, beans. Bush beans and climbing beans or pole beans are really they're both really great things to have grow in the garden. Bush beans are awesome because you can often get 2 crops of bush beans from a plot throughout your growing season. Pole beans take a little bit longer to finish up, but they will fruit for a good part of the warm season. And during that time, your beans are putting out flowers for the pollinators. They're especially attractive to bumblebees, which I don't know about you, but I love them. While they're growing, they're pumping nitrogen down into the soil. So if you are a crop rotator, they can help you save money on fertilizer. Pythagoreans, as in the followers of Pythagoras in ancient Greek, were prohibited from eating beans. According to Varros, this is because they were said to contain the souls of the dead. Careful when you're eating your beans. Don't let yourself accidentally ingest a soul. Is that why they're the musical fruit? Is that the souls escaping? Consider that. Number 6, which I'm going to consider a freebie, is radishes. And radishes are cheaper at the grocery store, but I still think they're worth growing in the garden because you can just slip them in any little patch and you get a crop in like 30 days. I'm going to mispronounce all the Spanish. I apologize in advance. In Oaxaca, Mexico, they celebrate the Night of the Radishes, or Noche de Rábanos. Artists carve radishes and participate in contests involving carved radishes, presumably. Right, now let's talk about the crops that are cheaper to buy. These are 5 legit crops. I'm not going to give you a sneaky number 6. So this is stuff that either just takes up a ridiculous amount of space in your garden for how much food you get out of it, or it's just so cheap at the grocery store that there's no point in using that space. Number 1, and I grew this one this year and probably will next year, is corn. Corn is delicious, and sweet corn fresh from the garden is an unmatched experience in a human lifetime, and you owe it to yourself to have that experience. But corn plants take up like a lot of space, and each plant will only give you 1 or 2 ears of corn in a season, and you only get 1 harvest off your corn. So in terms of space, it's just not worth it. Also, corn is one of the thirstiest, hungriest plants that does the most damage to your soil that you can grow in a garden. According to the Maya creation mythology, the gods first tried to make humans out of mud and then wood, and it failed each time. But when they made humans out of corn mash, that was when they had success. So when you are enjoying that sweet corn in the summer, you are a cannibal. Number 2 is rhubarb. Rhubarb is so easy to grow in the garden. You might be wondering, well, why wouldn't you want to? Well, each plant is going to take up between 4 square feet and 9 square feet of garden space, and it takes up that space all year round, and you get a small harvest of stems in the spring. Rhubarb can also mean a heated dispute or controversy. Don't believe me? Look it up in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Number 3 is garlic. It doesn't like neighbors. Neighbors will give you small bulbs, and also the timing is super awkward. You start it in the fall and then it wraps up in the early summer. So you lose a spring crop and a summer crop from that space. You might be able to squeeze in a fall crop, but the amount of the season that is blocked off by the garlic and the timing of the harvest is just really not worth the value of the land when you could be growing other stuff there. So unless you have a really big garden, it might be worth skipping the garlic. Ancient Egyptians included garlic in the pyramid builders' diet because they believed that garlic would improve your strength and stamina. And pyramid builders needed those things because sometimes the ancient aliens took a break. Number 4, watermelons. Each massive watermelon plant only produces 2 to 4 harvestable fruits per season. And that may not be worth the space compared to the yields of other crops you could choose to grow. The earliest recorded watermelon harvest took place 5,000 years ago in Egypt. No joke there, it's just a fact. Okay, number 5 is winter squash. Growing winter squash is very rewarding, but each plant is going to take up a whole bunch of space, and each plant isn't going to yield terribly much. The advantage of winter squash is that it is one of the few things we grow in our garden that we can actually eat through the winter time without doing extensive food preservation. We just toss it in a root cellar or a closet or whatever, and it's good for months. However, you don't have to use any storage space at all if you just go buy your winter squash from the grocery store, and you also don't have to use any garden space. Winter squash is very starchy, but during storage, that starch is converted into sugars, which means that winter squash is one of the few vegetables that actually tastes better after being stored for a while and isn't as tasty if you eat it right after you pick it. Videos like these can be a little bit rough because it feels like we're telling you what to do. You should grow what you want to grow and what you love. It is far more important that the things you grow in your garden are things that you will eat than it is that the things you grow in your garden are things that will most effectively use the space you've got. We're not in a subsistence economy where we are surviving off our land anymore. This is a first world nation. We have grocery stores. We have worldwide food growing and shipping networks. So what we grow in our gardens should reflect what we want to grow. If your space is at a premium and you're struggling to figure out what to grow, maybe this video will be helpful for you, but I cannot stress this enough. You should grow what you love. AI slop is killing the internet, and YouTube is part of that. Not long ago, I found a relatively young AI YouTube channel about gardening and growing food. And it's just been running for a few months, but it's already monetized and it's pulling in between $2,000 and $5,000 a month for the owners of the channel. That doesn't bother me. Almost every gardening YouTuber is more successful than me. What bothers me is that this is almost entirely AI produced content. They're using stock footage, they're using an AI voice following a script, their thumbnails are entirely AI. So each video takes very little work from the owner, and yet they're getting a lot of money in return. But what bothers me even more is that they are not fact checking, and AI lies a lot. I mean, it doesn't technically lie because in order to lie, you have to know that what you're saying is not true, and AI doesn't know anything. The problem is that there's a lot of incorrect information on the internet, and AI has no context of a real world, and so it can't filter out the good from the bad, and what you get isn't necessarily useful information for a gardener, or sometimes is just something the AI made up because it's programmed to please its users. If AI slop is a concern for you, please like Real Human videos, subscribe to Real Human YouTube channels, and support your Real Human YouTube creators. While you're at it, make sure you like this video, make sure you've subscribed to my channel, and if you want to become a channel member, I won't tell anybody. You don't need to be ashamed. Just do it. Thank you so much for joining me here in my greenhouse today. I hope you have a wonderful time in your own garden.